brings us to budget allocation. So let's talk about it. I get this question all the time. Well, how much? So if you're going to tell me to invest, how much should I invest? And I have to always say, well, that depends. That's not an answer, and I know it's not an answer, and it is frustrating. One of the things I can tell you, this is no longer a meeting to be testing. Now, testing tactics, absolutely. You can certainly test tactics within the meeting. You want to test mobile, you want to test social, you want to test search, display, what have you. Absolutely. But this is not a test medium. This is a medium, I've been in digital media for 15 years. If that says something as to where we are as far as the media is concerned. But it's also, I mean, I'm not going to go through reading these, but it's mutilating other media. And I hate to say that to anyone that's been in newspaper advertising for many years, but the fact of the matter is that the Chicago Sun-Times has filed for bankruptcy. Seattle newspapers have shut down. Why? It's not because people don't want to read the newspaper or don't want news. It's because they're getting it somewhere else. And they're no longer going out and buying a newspaper. I bought a newspaper the other day. It was $2.50. I was like, you gotta be kidding. It was this big. It was the thinnest thing I've ever read. I was like, what is this? So, how are people getting their news? They're getting it online. And that is why we're seeing the disintegration of certain media, and we're seeing the development of others. So when we look at the way the media category has changed in terms of growth, and this is a while back, 06 to 07, but it's I think 08 was kind of a weird year, so I think this is a good way to look at it. The only thing that beat the internet was national cable. And if you remember what happened in 06 to 07, Bravo came out with Top Model, Project Runway, MTV came out, it was Reality Central. And national broadcast cable got a huge lift. So the only thing that beat up the internet in that growth period was national cable. So again, this is no longer a test medium. It's time to look at it as a real medium. And in order to kind of prove that it's a real medium, one of the things that I think is important to talk about and get a little bit further into today is search engine marketing. It's a huge piece of the pie. 8% of overall marketing budgets, not digital budgets, overall marketing budgets. And within digital, it's up to 60% in some cases of digital marketing allocation. So I think it's something that we need to understand a little bit better. What's the difference between SEM and SEO? Why is everything in digital an acronym? And what does it mean? So I'd like to start with the search engine process. For those of you, and I apologize for those of you that know this already, please bear with us, but I really wanted to make it clear to everyone how this works and what the benefit of search engine marketing is for marketers. So, looking at the search engine process, how does it work? It's like this magical thing. You just put something in it, spit something back out at you, whether it's online or whether you're Google texting. There's all this information, and over the years it's become more and more and more relevant. And how does that happen? So what does happen? The search engines send out what we call spiders, and they're not real spiders. They send out applications across the web, and they scour the entire web, and they pull back in information. Okay? And then they've got just this enormous amount of information. So once they have that information cataloged, a user comes along and puts in a keyword, or more likely these days it's called query string. We've moved on from just putting in computers to putting in buy Dell computer, buy Dell Inspiron. So once that query string goes into the keyword application, into the little box or into your text, you get delivered what we call a SERP, which is a search engine results page. Okay? And what you need to understand is the engine is not going out and searching the web every time you put in a query string. It's going into that database that they've built, and it's checking the quality score against your keyword, and it's delivering to you a ranking of page results. Okay? That's important to know because now you've gone through 2 rounds of quality. So they've gone out and scoured, brought it into a database, gotten rid of the, basically the crap, so to speak, what is not relevant. And then again, when you put in your keyword, they go in again and pull from that database, check everything out, and create a ranking on a page. The ranking on a page is created by these things that are called algorithms. So the way that you come up, whether you come up in organic search or you come up in search marketing, and I'll talk about the differences, is based on this algorithm. So if we go back maybe, gosh, I don't know, 5 years now, when you used to put in a query string, you know, insect bites, because you have an insect bite, you want to check it out. The first and second thing would always be buy insect bites on eBay, buy insect bites on Amazon.com. And for every single word or query you put in, that showed up. Well, what had happened was folks at those companies had figured out the algorithm and were able to, for every single query that went in, make themselves rank first or second. Okay, so what the engines did is they got smart, and they started creating these, you know, secret formulas called algorithms, and they changed them up very often, so that programmers, even the smartest of programmers, if they can figure it out quickly, even if they figure it out quickly enough, it changes. And so unless you have someone full-time on staff doing this all the time, which people don't, you're not going to be able to figure out that algorithm. And therefore, the results that show up are going to be very relevant to the consumer. The consumer is going to feel very trustworthy about the search engine that they're using and the search results that they're getting, and they're going to go back there all the time. Who did this the right way? It was Google. And that's why Google took share of the market like that. Because you used to search on Yahoo and MSN and get a bunch of stuff that wasn't really relevant. All of a sudden, you went to Google, and it was like relevance. You know, everything that came up actually was what you were looking for. And then that became your search engine of choice. And then it became the brand. We Google something. We don't search something anymore. We Google something. And in a matter of what? 3, 4 years that happened? How long did it take Kleenex to get to that point, or Xerox to get to that point? So pretty incredible, and that's the search engine process, and that's how search engines function and work. I think it's important to understand that. Not going to make a big difference to you on a day-to-day basis. It does make a big difference to folks that are optimizing your website for search. And that's what we call search engine optimization, SEO. And the way that I like to remember the difference between SEO and SEM, search engine marketing, and search engine optimization is the O stands for organic. So the organic listings are the listings that are down on the bottom, and the search marketing are the paid for top listings. And I have a picture here of that. We'll go through it. So there are all sorts of definitions out there for SEO. What is the major differentiation between digital marketing and traditional marketing? It's not the media, it's not the technology, it's the customer. It's what the customer is doing, and it's how the customer is using media. You may love your newspaper reps, you may love being in the Sunday Circular, but if nobody's reading that newspaper anymore, too bad. You gotta go where your customer is. And that's the hard fact, is that we have to look at where your customer is and how they're using media. And you can't make these generalizations that social networking is for tweens. You know, people over 65 years old don't use the internet except for email. Those are really scary, you know, deep generalizations that I think we get stuck in and that we hear a lot of. I think it's really important to understand where your customers' media habits are today. So what can digital do? Well, they can target, and yes, traditional can target as well, but they can't do it in the same way digital can. Yes, we can geo-target with traditional media. We can, I think a really good example is content targeting. What cable did for the big three, right? They took it, they segmented that audience and said, okay, yes, everybody's watching TV at 8 o'clock on Friday nights. We're going to segment this down, and all of a sudden we're going to have a news channel, a music channel, a food channel, and we segmented that audience. Well, the online has done the same thing, and they've just segmented it into these microcosms of content. So contextual relevance and contextual marketing is very well alive and kicking, and you can certainly be contextually relevant. I can be, if I'm trying to sell in stocks, I may want to be on a banking site and get somebody while they're in a contextual mindset of building out their portfolio. Again, we can hit that traditionally. The things that are different are behavioral and retargeting. And I think Jen hit the nail on the head when she said that people don't understand behavioral. It's the scary thing, you know, Big Brother's watching me online, or what do you mean you know what I was doing online? How do you know that? Well, I don't know that you were doing online. I don't know who you are, I don't know what your age is, I don't know what your name is, I don't know where you live. All I know is a number that's associated with your computer. It's called an IP address. Okay? And that IP address shows what you did online. I don't care if you're surfing porn. If you surf porn, that's your behavior. I want to know that. I know that you don't want me to know that. You don't want me to know your name. You don't want me to know your address. But I don't know those things. And it's very important to understand from a behavioral standpoint, all we know is the behavior that's been generated on that computer. A great example is cars. How many car sites? If all of a sudden my information is that your IP address has been to the Volkswagen site, the Toyota site, the Ford site, okay, all of a sudden I'm getting a clue here about your behavior online. Wouldn't it be relevant for me while you're surfing the web to be serving up a car ad for you? And isn't that great for the consumer to actually get relevance? You know what, if I'm looking for a car, why not get messaging that's important?